if you are not familiar with the name Punctual, I promise you, as I've mentioned many times here on America's Dance 30, they are behind a lot of your favorite songs. John and Will, Punctual, welcome to America's Dance 30 for the first time. It is great finally meeting you.
Hey guys, I'm John, by the way.
I'm Will.
And I'm Brian. Nice to meet you guys.
Good stuff.
Now, I was chatting with Bebe Rexha a few weeks ago about I'm the Drama and Chase It, which both you co-produced. And then we were chatting with Cheat Codes last week about Find Love Now with Rafaela. That's your new smash. Do you have a rough idea of how many songs you've written or produced?
I think, so I know last year we had 42 songs out that we sort of went and produced.
In 1 year?
Yeah. And we're hoping to beat it this year. That's the big aim. I don't know how many.
I think we're on track for it.
We're on track, yeah.
And do you guys keep track? So do you have an idea of the entire Punctual catalog?
So we've got an Excel document. It's very nerdy. But a friend of ours who's a writer basically gave it to us. And we have all of the songs we've ever written. Well, in the last probably like 4 or 5 years or whatever. And then we've got every song that's like coming out. It's very organized.
As with the best music producers, we're really nerdy. That's the thing.
Yeah, but that's got to be mind-blowing to just look at that. Now, if I mentioned how many artists you guys have worked with, we would be here until 2030, which actually isn't that far away. But you've worked with Raye, Armin van Buuren, Ella Henderson, Acraze, Bebe Rexha. Feel free to take a nap while I'm doing this. Rudimental, Chris Lake, Nathan Dawe, Jason Derulo, Jonas Blue, Felix Jaehn, Cheat Codes, Joel Corry, Steve Aoki, VASSY, of course your original stuff, and that's just to name a few. That is insane. Is it as insane to hear that?
I love it when you're saying it. It sounds great.
Yeah. You really, I feel great now.
Well, feel free to have me to intro you for your Grammy Award. Is there an artist that when you've been in the session, you've said to yourselves, man, how is this possible right now?
I think it's like sometimes it's like initially you're always sort of like you never know what someone's like. I think that's the sort of the biggest part. I think that's also the same with anyone you work with, to be honest. I think it gets to the point where you're always a little bit just sort of wanting to make sure you're welcoming and that all that natural stuff. But I think after you've been in the room with someone for 15 minutes or whatever, I think you realize that repeatedly everyone's just human. So it's like I don't know, I wouldn't say we get like crazy nervous.
Well, we sort of first met and we grew up producing drum and bass, and so like a lot of the big drum and bass DJs are like our idols, and like when we work with them I get a bit starstruck just because we spent hours in our bedrooms trying to make music like them. So when you like meet them, they're the people I'm like, oh my god, like I like idolized you my whole like childhood basically. So that's like I get nervous around drum bass.
That's awesome. Now, this is just popping in my head. I don't know if it's true, but I feel like when I was doing research, did you guys also produce for Elton John?
No, he played a song on his radio show, and he called us fabulous, and that was like that pinnacle. You know, that's it's a great anecdote. If nothing else.
You should put that on your business card.
It's like when you buy a book and it has like the little
exactly. Now
reviews.
Let's get to know you guys a little better with Finky's firsts.
Should we take it in turns?
Yeah, we'll go back and forth. So I always love finding out the origin story of artists. Now, I know that you guys met as teens and you were already producing music, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But when you were growing up, was music the first thing you wanted to get into, or was there something else you wanted to be when you grew up? Will?
I don't think I ever actually thought. I think when I was younger, I probably wanted to be like a drummer in a band. I drummed sort of a lot of my childhood, and I thought that I'd always be in a band, but I actually was never in any band, which is kind of weird, apart from like a brass band. But like, so So I guess that was probably a dream, but I think I just sort of thought that would never happen. So it's kind of fluked it in a way, just actually working in music.
That's awesome. What about you, John?
I mean, I think, you know, I like to produce music every spare moment I got when I was growing up at school and when I was at university and stuff. And I kind of, it's one of the things you never think, you know, you really desperately hope it's going to happen and you can make a living out of it and it can be your career. But it's so competitive and it's so hard that, you know, you just have got to work hard and like try and, you know, put your all into it. So it was a dream of mine, but I was like trying to stay sort of realistic and like, you know, pursue other things at the same time.
You mentioned that you were producing every second you had, but I mean, that's got to be the case now because of how many songs you got. I don't know how you guys have any free time.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, 100%. It was literally like non-stop, but we love it. You've got to love it, you know. You've got to love it to do it, I think. So you've got to live it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as I mentioned, you guys have pretty much worked with everybody, but do you remember the first song that you guys produced?
I think that one of the first songs we ever made that came out was actually one of our songs called Anything for Your Love, which we literally made. I mean, that must have been at uni, which when we were probably like 20, maybe 19, or maybe even earlier than that, I'm not sure. Anyway, that came out years and years later, but I'm not sure about what the actual first ever song we made was.
It was probably pretty bad. I don't want to know.
I mean, that's pretty much what everybody says, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, I think we made a lot of like really like lo-fi like future garage with just, you know, would go on for like 15 minutes or something.
Who was the first big artist that you got the opportunity to work with?
The first like real like production that came out for a big artist was Raye. That was our first sort of like, you know, notable sort of production, which was Regardless.
Regardless, yeah, Raye and Rudimental, which was like, at the time, it's funny that song because we did a version of it and we sort of heard back that they liked it or whatever, didn't hear anything, and then one Friday morning she got a text from our friend being like, "Happy release day." We were like, "Excuse me?" We're like, "Happy release day." We were like, "What?" And I just went on New Music Friday and it was just like there, like, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "It's actually out. This is crazy."
That's insane. You know, that I don't know why, but it brings up a core memory of me putting a note in a girl's locker asking her to go out with me and having to wait all day to find out the answer because she didn't go back to her locker. Is that kind of what it's like when you don't hear from an artist and you don't know if they like the song or not?
Sometimes. It's sometimes a nervous wait, for sure. Like, especially if you're sending it to the artist and you sort of put your like heart and soul. We've literally just sending over something tonight to somebody, and it's like if you're like, it can be very nerve-wracking because you're like, I just spent like so long on this and like really hope you like it.
But that's so awesome. It was with Raye. She is so talented. Now, when you guys were trying to decide on an artist project name, was Punctual the first name you guys were going to go with, or were there other names you were considering?
There was a couple. We actually nearly were called, it's not a cool name at all. It probably could have been a good liquid drum and bass name, but we were nearly called the Hazeltons.
No, I think it was just Hazelton, was it?
Oh, the Hazelton. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
But, and we were, I think it was our first ever deal, and we were signing a record deal, and as Hazelton, and about four days to go, they're like, somebody's already Hazelton. You can't be Hazelton. You need to find another name quick, and we were like, So we found Punctual, and we sort of, you know, stuck.
Well, it's a great name. I'm glad you guys decided on that one.
It is a good name, but it's also like, if you're ever in a loud place, it's not a good name because somebody like, "What's your artist name?" You're like, "Punctual," and they're like, "Punctual." You're like, "Punctual," and they're like, "Pun what?"
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're ever late to a session, that just lends to a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
Now, you guys have had a lot of songs on the radio, but do you remember the first time hearing one of your songs on the radio?
Yeah, it's a good story about that, actually. Our second ever single with RCA, when we just signed our first sort of deal as an artist, the B-side to that was a song called Fix, which is like a 9-minute song, which we both love. But yeah, we heard it on the radio and we got told the time's tune and we tuned in and we're listening to it and we're like, "What? This isn't the most recent version." It was like an unmixed different arrangement, like different sounds.
It was our demo of it, and we were like, how is this even possible that this version's got to somebody, let alone radio? And so we were like, there, sort of like really happy that our song was on the radio, but also like, whistle for that version.
Was it somebody on the team that released it, or was it somebody that just got, what happened?
We don't know.
Don't know. We'll never find out.
It's the type of thing that I don't think anyone's going to sort of own up to. They'll probably just be like, oh, somebody.
But hey, you were on the radio. That's all that really matters.
Exactly.
Now, finally, in Finky's verse, in honor of the new song with Cheat Codes and Rafaela, Find Love Now, it's got the lyrics, don't be afraid to fall. But what is your first major fear, Will?
Oh, that's an easy one. Wasps, easily.
Oh, my God.
It's funny. This is why we're such a good team, because mine's also wasps.
Yeah, but that means you're not a good team, because if there's ever a wasp near you, neither of you are taking care of it.
Honestly, you should see it when a wasp's in the studio. We used to work out of like my bedroom years ago, and on a summer's day, the window's open. And when a wasp came in, it was absolute pandemonium, like pushing each other out of the way, like getting out first.
Peering around the door.
Oh, my God, that's terrifying. Now, when I was speaking with Nina Nesbitt a long time ago, she shared with me that one of her biggest smashes was on her hard drive for 5 years. Galantis shared that one of his biggest songs was on his hard drive for 10 years. I know that I saw that you guys post that the song with Switch Disco, Alok, and Ella Henderson had been like a year or two before it was put out. Find Love Now was a couple of years ago. Do you know what song has been on your hard drive the longest?
I mean, I've got every single project I've ever made on my computer, dating back to like when I was like 14, I think. 15.
Oh my God, you still have that on your computer?
Yeah, I've got everything.
Wow, that is insane.
We did a really good TikTok thing, actually, where we were listening back to some, like, randomly clicking on some of your projects. That was really funny.
Is it tough to listen to the older stuff?
Oh, it's just hilarious. It's hilariously bad. It's like really is quite funny. It's a great watch.
That is awesome. I've got to check that out. Now, something I always love to talk about songs is how many different V's there are from when you start working on it, all the tweaking that goes on to when you finally master it and put it out. When it comes to Punctual songs, are there normally a lot of V's, or is it a different situation every time?
You know what? With our songs that we personally just put out under our artist project, are quite often just pretty much just like the session demo and then maybe some tweaks the day after. It's probably like a couple of days. We don't really spend, I wouldn't say we agonize over our own music, actually.
Yeah, it's sort of dependent, because with our stuff we only need to please ourselves, and if it's like something, we just do what comes naturally, and if something's not coming naturally with a song, it's probably not right for us, I guess. So like the best songs always come really quickly, I think.
Yeah, we've never like slogged through a really, I wouldn't say a Punctual song and been like on like version like 50 and been like, oh, we're gonna get it right. It's just, we probably wouldn't have just stopped working on it or something. Yeah.
Well, speaking of your original stuff, was it Out of the Blue? Is that one of your originals? That was, I mean, so highly underrated. I love that song so much. It was such a great song.
Me too, actually. I've always
Thanks.
I was actually at a barbecue last week, and I was chatting to one of my girlfriend's friends, and well, it wasn't her friend, but it was a friend of her friend, and she found out like that I was part of Punctual, and she's like, "Oh my God, I love Punctual." And I was like, "Oh, amazing! Like that's so good." She was like, "My favorite song is Out of the Blue," and I was like, "That's one of my favorite songs." Nobody says that. Nobody says that. You must be a true fan if you know Out of the Blue.
Well, it sounded great on Evolution, and I got to tell you, as a programmer, when you hear a great song like that, it is so frustrating that it's not going higher on the charts. Not that, you know, the charts are live or die by, but still, as a programmer, I'm like, man, every station should be playing this song. Well, congratulations, not only on all the stuff going on for you guys now, but everything that's gone on in your career. It is so great finally chatting with you guys. Punctual, thank you for your time with us on America's Dance 30.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.